which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have some announcements. September is National Library Card Sign-Up Month. Stop by the library to register for a card, to renew one that is no longer valid, or simply to come in to explore some of the wonderful resources that are available to you at the Grafton Public Library. A vaccine clinic for Grafton residents will be held at the Municipal Center Gymnasium on Friday, September the 27th, from noon to 4 p.m. Call 774-502-0410 to register for a flu, shingles, COVID, or RSV vaccine. The Congregational Church of Grafton will host their 45th Harvest Fair and Apple Pie Social on Sunday, September the 29th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Stop by for some homemade apple pies, kids' games, live music, yard sale, and more. And I think this will be the last time I'm going to make this announcement. The Regional EV Expo will also take place on Sunday, September 29th from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at 50 Otis Street in Westboro. Volunteers from the area will be at this event with their electric vehicles to share their ownership experience and answer questions from visitors. Entry is free, so you could feasibly get your pie in the morning and then head on over to drive an EV in the afternoon. And so I will accept a motion to open. We have two public hearings this evening.
Okay.
Or sorry, read the legal notice, I guess, sir, first.
In accordance with the provision of Chapter 82, Section 22 of Mass General Law, the Select Board intend to decree, lay out, and make public the following roadways in Highfields Golf Course Subdivision, Grafton, MA, known as Silver Spruce Drive, Manor Hill Drive, and the portion of McGill Drive referred to as Phase 1. The Select Board intends to lay out the above referenced roadways at their meeting on September 17, 2024, in Conference Room A of the Grafton Memorial Municipal Center located at 30 Providence Road, and via Zoom starting at 7 p.m. The Zoom link will be posted on the September 17, 2024 Select Board agenda. Anyone wishing to may attend in person or via Zoom and provide public comment. This was posted to the Grafton News, 8/29 and 9/5/2024, as well as to the Town Bulletin Board and the Town website. I move the board vote to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. So do we have someone to speak to this tonight?
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Rob Knappich. Can you hear me?
We can, Rob. Thank you.
Thank you. With me tonight is Byron Andrews, and we both appear before you on behalf of the developer of the Highfields of Grafton subdivision, McGill Associates. I know you have a very thorough packet, which I assume you've familiarized yourself with. I don't have much to add, but I will say that this is the culmination of a process, the road acceptance process that's been going on for over a year or so. It included some repaving of the road and some work with the Conservation Commission. And it's been a rigorous process, but one that I think has resulted in a very complete and well-constructed roadway. You'll see in your packet that the town's reviewing engineer and the relevant town boards and departments have confirmed that the roadway and utilities are installed in accordance with the plan. And in addition, the planning board has issued its certificate of completeness, which essentially says the same thing. So as I said, it's been about a little over a year-long process. It's been a rigorous process, but I know that everything is in good order and we believe ready for road acceptance. There's a couple of sort of housekeeping items that are underway, and one of them is it's not really dependent on the road acceptance, but part of the permit that was issued, I think around about 20 years ago, involved the developer granting a conservation easement to the town. That's being negotiated and finalized with the Conservation Commission, and so too the commission is prepared to issue certificates that the work in phase 1 that was subject to their jurisdiction has been completed in accordance with the appropriate permits. So Byron is the engineer on the project. I'm counsel to the developer, and we're of course happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And sorry, Byron, were you gonna say anything, or are you just looking for questions?
No, I'll just wait for questions. I think Rob described our preparations and what we have done in good detail, so I have nothing to add.
Okay, great. Any questions from the board? Nope. Okay, barring none, I'll accept a motion.
I move the board vote to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Guess I have to say that. Motion carried.
Okay.
Any questions from the board relative to the project?
No, I mean, the packet was exhaustive, and we had, looks like every department that needed to, water, sewer, planning, etc., weigh in and determine that it was a complete, and looks like everything's ticked off. So
Yep. Thanks, Matt.
yeah, it's a good job. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
We didn't, I probably shouldn't have motioned so quickly. We didn't ask for any
Any
public input.
input? Any public input? Any hands on Zoom, William?
No hands on Zoom.
Anyone here? Not a hand, just a yay. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. In accordance with Chapter 82, Section 21 of Massachusetts General Laws, I move the board vote to approve and submit to the planning board the Highfields Golf Course subdivision road layout as presented this evening. In the event that the planning board recommends the road acceptance, I move the board vote to sign the Mylars.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, barring none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just add very quickly, I'd like to acknowledge with appreciation the assistance of the town staff, including the town administrator and his staff, and the town planner and her staff. Sometimes in these situations, one encounters what feels like roadblocks, but this has been anything but that. The town's been helpful and responsive, and I know I appreciate that, and I'm sure the developer does as well. So thank you all very much.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for saying that. Great.
You're welcome.
Thanks. It's always good to recognize the hard work behind the scenes. No pun intended with the roadblock. Okay, so moving on to our second public hearing relative to Millstone Drive.
In accordance with the provision of Chapter 82, Section 22 of Mass General Law, the Select Board intended to decree, lay out, and make public the roadway known as Millstone Drive, Grafton, MA. The Select Board intends to lay out the above referenced roadway at their meeting on September 17, 2024 in Conference Room A of the Grafton Memorial Municipal Center located at 30 Providence Road and via Zoom starting at 7 p.m. The Zoom link will be posted on the September 17, 2024 Select Board agenda. Anyone wishing to may attend in person or via Zoom and provide public comment. Posted to the Grafton News, 8/29 and 9/5/2024, as well as to the bulletin board and the town website. I move the board vote to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the public hearing is open. Is there anyone to speak to this one? Yep, great. Just tell us your name and address, please.
I'm sorry.
Just let us know who you are.
Yes, Steve Van Kasser. I'm one of the developers, Millstone, and this project has been built. We started around 2018. We completed around 2020, and we've gone through the checklist and completed everything to the satisfaction of the board. We have a full package, and without belaboring it, we're just looking for the same thing the previous developers for acceptance of the road this time.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Nope.
Any public comment or questions? Anyone here in the room? On Zoom?
Nope.
Okay.
I move the board vote to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
In accordance with Chapter 82, Section 21 of the Massachusetts General Laws, I move the board vote to approve and submit to the planning board the Millstone Drive road layout as presented this evening.
Second.
Not quite done yet.
Oh.
It was deceptive on the end there. In the event that the planning board recommends the road acceptance, I move that the board vote to sign the Mylars.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion or any discussion period? Barring none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks for coming in. And if it's okay with everyone, I did just get a request to bump up the proclamation for the Gold Star Mother's Day item to right now. And Bob and or Andy want to come up, if that's okay with everyone here?
Yep.
Yep, sounds good.
Please excuse the fact that I'm gonna read all of this stuff. There's a lot to talk about and I don't wanna forget anything.
No worries.
So I'm gonna make it as clear as I can. I have some graphics I'd like to show a little bit later in the presentation. Okay. At the Grafton Select Board meeting on August 13th, Grafton Veterans Advisory Committee requested that the town honor its Gold Star mothers and families on September 29th, National Gold Star Mother's Day. The board was receptive to the request. It was noted that a proclamation from the state would be read on September 17th, and that research was almost complete to identify Gold Star mothers, and if not a mother, a family member of a veteran of Grafton honor roll that are buried in Grafton cemeteries. We have 19. The board was told that Gold Star plan would be brought to them and the townspeople on September 17th. So here we are on September 17th. Gold Star Mothers Family Day. Why now? Last fall, at Riverside Cemetery, a man who knew that I had something to do with Grafton veterans' graves approached and told me that his great-grandmother is a Gold Star mother, and that no one had ever placed anything at her grave honoring her as such. I told him I'd look into it. Research proved his story, and identified 19 other families in Grafton that share the same story. I brought this to the Grafton Veterans Advisory Committee, and they allowed me to go forward to do the right thing for these 20 families. The author of the story is Todd Carroll, great-grandson of Gold Star mother Ruth Jordan. Tonight, the following is proclamation from Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Board of Veteran Service, and I'll read it now. Unfortunately, the actual proclamation is stuck someplace in the Massachusetts postal system, and they sent me a copy of the background what they send to every proclamation, and they sent me the wording. So I put it together, and the actual proclamation will get here someday. Anyways, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Veteran Services. Be it hereby known to all that the Executive Office of Veteran Services offers its sincerest congratulations to the Grafton Veterans Advisory Committee in recognition of your remarkable leadership and unwavering dedication to Gold Star families of Grafton, Massachusetts. The Secretariat extends its best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Given the 17th day of September 2024, John Santiago, Secretary of Veteran Services. Now, I understand the town has a proclamation, and would somebody read that now?
Sure. September 29th, 2024 will be a day of solemn remembrance for the town of Grafton as we honor our town's Gold Star families. These families paid the ultimate sacrifice in ensuring our country and the freedoms we enjoy are protected from our enemies. On this day, we will join our nation's recommitment to care for these families who gave their last full measure of devotion to our way of life. For generations, our brave soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen have laid down their lives to protect this great nation, and it is important that their legacies live on. On Gold Star Mothers and Families Day, the town of Grafton grieves with those families and will honor their sacrifices by continuing to care their memory with us each day. It's signed by the three of us tonight.
Okay. Whomever has the chart showing the results of my research, could we put that up on the screen, please? Okay. Let me get to that point. We will honor 20 Gold Star family members buried in Grafton cemeteries, 17 Gold Star mothers, and 3 Gold Star family members. And the chart will explain who the mothers are and who the Gold Star family members would be. The family members would be that a mother is not buried in town, a mother and father are buried in one case it's Poland, and the sister was still in town when the notification was made that her brother was deceased. So we're honoring her as a Gold Star family member. Okay, that was one of the other ones. Okay, research to name the living relatives of these families to place the Gold Star flags on the graves continues. If a relative cannot be found to place these flags on the graves, Grafton veterans will offer to place the flags instead. Okay, so the plan. Relatives of our Gold Star families, Senator Michael Moore, Representative David Meridian, members of our Select Board, Grafton veterans, the volunteers who will place the flags at the graves, and all the townspeople of Grafton that want to attend, are asked to meet at the flagpole closest to Brigham Hill Road in front of the Municipal Center at 7:45 a.m. on September 29th. To prepare for the raising of a 3x5 Gold Star Mothers family flag at 8 a.m. If any of these guests want to say anything, after short messages from anyone present and the playing of taps, our volunteers will be given their flags and will leave to place them at the graves of the Gold Star family members. Quick note, these special flags will be retired on October 4th and stored until September 28, 2025, when they will again be put in place for National Gold Star Mothers Family Day. Done. Now, just a quick point here. This is the flag that will be placed at all of these Gold Star Mothers graves. We have, and our association, the committee also purchased the 3x5 flag that will fly. Anyone that on this chart up here, there's a note on the top that if anyone wants to place one of these flags, that in a place on that chart where there's no one to present the flag, they'll contact me by September 25th. We'll get them on the program, and we'll allow them to place the flags. I think that's it. That's it. Hit the road. Thank you.
Great, thank you for all your work that you've done on this. This is fabulous.
Thank you, Mr. Shelberg.
Thank you.
Just hang on to this.
Bob?
Sorry, do you guys want to take this? Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Okay. Thanks everyone for allowing us to just take that out of order. So moving along to appointments for Select Board. The first is the Facilities Assessment Committee. We have one person who so far has put their name in, or at least was able to come tonight. Mr. Mead.
Madam Chair, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Want
What would
to
you
tell
like
us
to
a little
know?
about yourself?
you all received my letter. So
Yes, yep. Any
I've been in
questions?
construction my entire life and have performed numerous building assessments, code reviews, and estimation for construction pretty much all my life. And I was the one that brought this committee before the board to get it appointed. And I understand that there's 5 other people who are going to be or will be on the agenda on October 1st to also join the board too.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Mead?
Sure, yeah, just looking forward to seeing that get organized, Ray. Thanks for kind of leading the charge, and you know, I look forward to seeing you guys save the town some money.
Well, a few of the people have said that, it's a big endeavor, and it's going to take some time, which is what I've said before, that it's going to take some time. But if it can save the town $250,000, that's fine with me. That's great with me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Ray. All right, I'll accept a motion if there's no other discussion.
Sure. I move the board vote to appoint Ray Mead to the Facilities Assessment Committee.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Welcome, Ray.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good
Thanks,
night.
Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Thanks. Okay, moving on to the Zoning Board of Appeals. There's one vacancy, and we have 3 applicants. If we want to maybe have Alex come on up first, if you want to just say a few words, and all 3 of the candidates, if they're here. And just to, go ahead, Alex, you can introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Want to say thank you for being here tonight and considering me for the position that's available. I'll start off. My name's Alex Mejia. I'm currently sit as an alternate member on the zoning board. I wanted to highlight 2 things. One is the relevant experience that I've gained since I was appointed back in February of this year. And 2, I just wanted to highlight my commitment to the position. So since February, I did want to highlight, we've had about, and don't quote me on this, we've had about 6 or 7 meetings. I've attended every single one of them. I think there was maybe one that I attended virtually, and I tore my Achilles, so unfortunately I couldn't walk out of the house. Since then, I didn't know much about, kind of the zoning bylaws and the codes and the regulations that we had to adhere to. But there's 3 things that I've been able to learn from my experience over the short few months. One is understanding of local zoning laws and regulations, right? Being familiar with Grafton zoning laws, codes, and regulations, and how they impact development. Over the past few months, there hasn't been any large development that's come through, but that's something that I am excited for. 2 has been just participation in the zoning hearings, being able to have conversations not only with my team members, but with folks of the town as well. That's been a learning experience within itself. And the last thing I want to say is, this position's available. We had a member that stepped down that has served a lot in this community. Being able to work alongside him and other members of the board has been pretty inspiring, and seeing their commitment and the level that they take to understand the different projects that are coming to the town, and how those decisions that we make impact the folks of the town and the characteristics of the town. So, I think with that being said, really appreciate you guys taking the time today, and, hopefully we can continue that in the position that's available. I'd love to be appointed. So appreciate the time.
Thanks, Alex. Any questions from the board?
I had one question. I'm wondering just if you could give us just a brief, I guess, overview of what your sort of basic position is, I guess, or way of thinking about LIPs that the board might endorse. So we had a couple of projects that the board endorsed, and eventually will end up before ZBA. So I'm just interested in how you think about those type of projects.
Yeah, it's a good question. Haven't had one just yet, so I think there's some research that needs to be done. But with that being said, I think that's the type of experience that I'm looking to gain. So can't comment on it quite yet, but would love to be a part of that conversation once it happens.
Okay. If I might just ask a follow-up question then, I guess what is your general opinion or position in terms of just creating housing in Massachusetts and municipalities' responsibility as far as that goes?
Yeah, it's a great question, Matt. I think that it's important to provide housing. I think there's, what we've seen over the past several months and what we're seeing, across the territory. I think there's no surprise that there is a shortage. But with that being said, I think there's opportunity for growth, but while also maintaining characteristic of the town. So I think there's a opportunity for us to have equal balance as we start considering expansion and development. I'm for it as long as it's done in an appropriate manner. And I think that's the decisions that we have to make as a unit.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments?
One. Can you just say more about, I guess, in your last comment, what would you define as appropriate in those situations?
In what sense, Andy? Do you mind double clicking?
It's a term that we hear a lot, with these projects. That it's not it's not an appropriate fit for the neighborhood. It's not, this or that. So I just feel like it's a term that can be used a variety of ways, whether we're talking about the appropriateness of the zoning that's in place and how it pertains to that, or characteristics. It's a little open-ended, so I was hoping you could
Definitely
narrow that.
The way that I would consider it is, and apologies, I'm blanking on the road right now that runs parallel to North Street. I think it's about 150 units going where the old
DPW.
The DPW. I did get an opportunity to sit in on that meeting and hear the conversations that were being had not only by the planning board but the folks of the community. I think the developer did a fantastic job at hearing what that building were to fit within that street. They took characteristics, correct me if I'm wrong, of the library, for example. That made it look just as if it was a part of the community that should have been there from many years ago. So I think when there's that type of collaboration and there's that type of onus between the board, the developer, and the community, I think that's appropriate. When there's not a lot of conversation happening, I think it's everyone's right to be able to voice their opinion and to work together to get a project that is appropriate. And when I use that word is in the views of all three parties involved.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else from the board? Okay, thanks,
Awesome.
Alex.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Larry? Great. Hi, Larry. Just your name and your address.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Larry Perchik. I'm new to town. I moved to 3 Stonegate Circle about 4 weeks ago.
I was wondering if it was this
That is
August 22nd or if it was
That's a nice neighborhood.
We're loving it so far. Yeah, it's been great.
Great.
What
And
can I
just
tell you?
so
Sorry.
your, interest in this position and what background you might have and.
Sure. Yeah. I'm interested because this is the first home my wife and I have ever owned. This is the first town I will have owned a home in. Obviously, I have a real interest in the town. My daughter's going to attend school in this town. I have a vested interest in its development and its character, and I want to take an active role in preserving and furthering both of those. The background that I bring to it, I would say a few things. About me personally, I'm a collaborative worker. I'm a fun person to have on your team, and I'm a hard worker. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing law in Massachusetts for 13 years, and I work for the state. I work for the Commonwealth. I work primarily in litigation, and in particular in healthcare litigation. But I also have a background in policy and regulatory and statutory interpretation. So I think that for better or for worse, being a lawyer kind of colors a lot of what I do, personally and professionally. But I think that with respect to this role, in terms of interpreting the bylaw and extrapolating that to a particular set of facts or a project or a proposition, I think I may have a leg up in those areas as far as understanding what the zoning bylaw calls for and seeing whether or not a particular proposal or project can fit into that. I think that's a real strength of mine and something that might be useful to the zoning board.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Do you have any questions for us relative to this board or the makeup or?
I'm somewhat familiar with the board. I'm familiar with the current clerk of the zoning board, and got some background on it from her. So I'm fairly comfortable with it.
Okay, great. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, Madam Chair. Same questions, I guess. I'd love to hear your basic orientation towards town and developer and zoning board of appeals collaboration and sort of process for creating housing in Massachusetts and Grafton in particular.
Well, I mentioned that I'm a collaborative worker. I hope it comes across that I'm a fairly strong communicator. I believe housing development is necessary. I was just on the housing market, as I mentioned, and that's a real slog. But I think that it should be, to the extent that there's housing to be created, it should be done with an eye towards preserving or conserving the character of the town, its nature, its spaces. I know that the town in particular places a real emphasis on green space, and I think that there's a way to develop housing in such a fashion that it doesn't compromise some of these ideals of the town. And I think that in particular, if this is done collaboratively between the town developers and the zoning board, it's achievable. But I do, to answer your question briefly, I do think there's a space for additional housing.
Okay.
A figurative space and hopefully a literal one.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair. So it's a tough discussion every time we have these things, especially, we have 3 candidates in the room tonight. We're gonna have to choose between one of them. I assume you would have called it out in your letter, but do you have any past municipal experience in this regard? Because it's amazing that you've, landed and jumped in so quickly.
No.
Okay.
Municipal experience? No.
So with this appointment in particular, I know you said familiarity with the clerk. We're also going to have, in particular, the alternate position potentially open for this. We will have one open for the planning board as well. Are there any other areas, I guess, those two seem fairly, parallel to each other, but any other areas that you're interested in serving or we could perhaps entice you with? Or?
I'm open to enticement at all times. but those are the couple that I had an eye on. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm all ears. So, like I said, I'm really enthusiastic about contributing to the town. I think that's an important part of living in a place. So I'm eager to see how I might be able to chip in.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? Thanks.
Thanks. And is Brian? Yep.
So, Brian Langevin, 4 Millstone Drive. Thanks for advancing my street towards town acceptance. So, I obviously just before the board a few months back for the planning board associate member position. Similar level of interest here. I think when I threw my hat in the ring, had no idea whether or not either of the ZBA's associate members would put their hats forward as well. I think it would obviously be a logical choice for a lot of reasons, and Mr. Yeoman's kind of called that out in his letter of resignation, strongly endorsing both of them. But speaking for myself, the board obviously has its own decision to make. I think some of the experience that I had on the bylaw study committee, could play well here. with, showed some of the skill sets that I think could add value to the ZBA. And obviously similar to the planning board's work, I've got an interest in the board's missions. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Any questions for Brian? We haven't met you before, so yeah.
Brian, yeah, just same question.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm interested in, for somebody on ZBA, what their orientation is to housing and how they would think about decisions. We did have the 1727 Upton. That's been very actively discussed around town, and there's lots of different opinions of things like appropriateness and compatibility with the neighborhood and other things. So, yeah, just interested in how you think about that.
Yeah, so 1727 Upton, my wife and I both individually submitted letters in support of the project. I think a couple of recent developments have really been good examples of developers that seemed like they were interested in working with the town. Early on, something as simple as GSX hearing resident concerns about a pickleball court, and immediately the next meeting that was turned around at a different open space. I'm down the street from the potential Pleasant Street development, and when that was in front of the ZBA, I think Vice Chair McCusker did a good job taking control of the temperature in the room a little bit and kind of explaining the process really well, that in some ways this is almost kind of a bit of a foregone conclusion. Let's keep the conversation constructive and see how we can maybe tailor the project to improve it, rather than just rail against it from the outset. And I think that helped keep some of the temperature down a little bit. I actually didn't speak out pro or against that development. I was in favor of it, but the way he had laid it out, it's like, well, I don't think I have anything to add here. I think the developers did a good job. They seemed like they listened to the residents on Peters Way that'd be most affected, and I think that level of collaboration, I think, is what we need. Developers that are willing to work with the town.
Great, thank you.
Anything from you, Andy?
No questions from me.
Okay, thank you so much. So yeah, Andy kind of alluded to the fact that this is difficult. Thank you, all three of you, for coming and expressing interest and continuing to come, or re-upping, or brand new person coming in. So that's great. And just point was made that depending on what happens this evening, there's a ZBA opening. There could potentially be an associate. There's a planning board opening, and then there could potentially be an associate there as well. So there are potentially a couple of changing in the landscape of both of those boards. So just that we would keep that in mind, I guess. I don't feel comfortable making a motion. I would like to, but
Can we have a little bit of discussion, I guess,
Sure.
if that's all right. Mr. Perchik, you are such a blessing. Somebody who just moved into town who's like, how can I contribute to the community? That is uncommon, and it's really exciting to see that somebody has that level of interest, who's so new to town. There's lots of opportunities for lots of different ways to contribute, and I love the expertise that you bring, with you to whatever board or committee is in your future. So I really appreciate you stepping up and so quickly, and just sort of having the self-initiative to just jump in and put your hat in the ring. So I absolutely love it. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. I guess I'll just say, for me, I think Alex is the natural choice for a couple of reasons. He's already familiar with the personalities and the role. He's clearly very comfortable speaking in public, which is an important thing to be able to do. I think he's also attended some of the hearings that they've had already, so he could naturally step in and participate in those discussions with some continuity. So that would be my suggestion.
Madam Chair, I agree with those points. And it's tough to look at people in this discussion and say, I don't want to squash your drive or you know whatever, and then you know make a motion to appoint somebody else. You know, you want to share your thought process behind it, and certainly we want to see all of you back here, because this is the hardest decision I think that we have to come to, is when we have three talented people in the room, you know, vying for a very limited number of positions. I think I'm in agreement with Mr. Offen that I do give Mr. Mejia just a little bit of an edge, because you have served as the alternate right now. Although again, honestly, when Mr. Langevin came up and discussed some of the recent projects, you know, it really made me think, because there's clearly a breadth of knowledge there, and some, you know, long-standing paying attention. But yeah, I definitely appreciate the three of you coming out tonight, and volunteering to serve the town, and however it shakes out, I hope we see you over the next few weeks in future applications.
Okay, I agree. I thank everyone, all three of you, for coming out, and I think, as you said, there's certainly plenty of space in the town for new volunteers and for continued people to be engaged. And I think that, you know, Alex, I've seen you on the ZBA, attending the meetings, and I know that you know, have gotten a relationship with some folks on the board, and appreciate their longevity and what they have brought to the board. So for me, that would be my choice as well. And again, nothing to discredit anyone else, of course, but just part of being the alternate, ideally, you know, not always, but could lend itself to, you know, going right into that role and it being a little bit more seamless.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jefferson.
I move the board vote to appoint Alex Mejia to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
Great. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Well, I won't say welcome. Continue on, Alex. And again, Larry and Brian, there is an opening as the alternate on the ZBA.
We do hope to see you both back,
Yeah.
because I think you're both great candidates.
Yeah. And thank you. Thanks everyone for coming out. We really appreciate it, and we're blessed to have this level of engagement. Thanks. Okay, so moving on, our next appointment, or looking at the Cultural Council, we may just have one more opening on this committee. I'm not entirely sure, but Kevin, you're here tonight to speak to that? Yep, you want to come on up?
Good evening.
Hi, just let us know your name and your address, please.
Kevin Brown Jr., 3 Messier Street.
Great. And so you have actually put your name in for a couple of different things this evening. So I guess my first question to you, is there a preference out of the three? You're the only person on the first two, that's why I can kind of do this, for both the Cultural Council and the Accessibility Advisory Commission. And then there's 2 folks for the for election workers. So I guess just wondering if, given what your time constraints might be and work schedule and whatnot, is there one versus another? Or
Well, my work schedule is going to be changing starting September 28th, so I'll have wider availability because I'll only be working 4 days a week instead of 5.
okay,
So I'll have more time to serve the town, say if the meetings are on a Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. Cultural Council, I already served a term on, so I feel like comfortable with that with experience. Same thing with election worker.
okay.
It's called Disability Advisory Committee, right?
Yeah, that used to be, they changed it. It's Accessibility Advisory Committee,
Accessibility
but it's similar charge, yeah.
As a Grafton citizen with a disability myself, autism, I always felt like I should have a duty to help serve and do what I can to help make life easier for the disabled citizens of Grafton. And I'm definitely appreciative for what Grafton has already done. They've done a lot, and I'm very grateful for it, but there's always room for more. And I would love to be able to serve that. But the Cultural Council and election worker, both of which I already served, I'd be more than honored to do as well.
Okay. I guess, and if I might, you guys can jump in if you want, but just to kind of hone this in a little bit. So the Cultural Council, a little bit less of a commitment. Certainly none of the boards or committees in town that I know of meet on Sundays. So it would just be like a Monday through Thursday, probably not even Fridays, I think, but, so it's generally like a Monday through Thursday type commitment, with the exception, of course, election workers, just the twice a year. So the Cultural Council don't seem to meet regularly every month. So it's a little bit of a lesser commitment. I think that when I looked into it, it might, be four or so times a year. So, if you're looking at changes in your schedule or just trying to, kind of come back in and see how it feels, that might be something. Whereas the Accessibility Advisory Commission, I think, would be a bigger commitment. So that might be something that you might want to, consider. I'll leave it to, any other questions for Kevin? So I'm not
Go for
just
it.
going.
Sure.
Oh, sorry.
So, how confident are you in the schedule change? Because that was less so with Cultural Council, but the other two, I noticed your current schedule has a conflict with both the current accessibility advisory committee schedule and elections. If you're not off on Tuesdays, are you confident that that shift is going to take place so that you'll be available on Tuesdays for events like that?
100%. I talked with my manager, and it goes into effect September 28th.
Yeah, so that the election worker, again, that's a daytime commitment on Tuesdays. Kind of don't, well, I guess you do have to worry about that coming up. It's coming up sooner than later, but 2 times a year. With the Cultural Council, when you were on it before, did you decide to step down, or how did that play out?
I decided that I was going to take a break, but I had a feeling I would want to come back in the future. And I have like I said, I had a feeling it was going to happen again. And now that I've had a break and I've served on other things like the election workers poll and done volunteer work and activism, I think I'm ready to have another term on it. Plus, it was always my plan to do non-consecutive things. Activists and politicians don't normally do that, and if there's something I don't like being, it's normal.
Great, noted. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how your experience was working elections.
As the election worker?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I enjoyed it. I only did it once or twice, I believe, but I enjoyed it. Being at the polls and guarding them and watching everyone. I actually did it twice, if my memory serves correctly. Once in 2020 for the town select board election, and then again in 2023 for the town election. And I enjoyed both times, and it was pretty simple what to do, just telling people where the entrances and exits were and sanitizing the areas. I enjoyed it, and I think it was a good experience, especially since I only did it a couple times, made it more exciting and looking forward to.
Excellent.
One more, Mr.
Sure.
Manager. So, Cultural Council, as Ms. Foley mentioned, has a less frequent meeting schedule, but it seems like they've also had some issues maintaining quorum and getting the necessary number of members there. Do you anticipate having any issues with attendance or anything like, is it something that we can count on you to be a regular contributor to help assist with that issue?
Absolutely. If you need me to request a day off of work, I will try my best, but you said that the meetings are probably more like scattered, so it's more likely it would fall on a day that I have off of work.
Okay.
Potentially, or at the very least, it would be in the evening. I think they probably meet at 7 or so. So most days you're done by 7.
Yes, right now I work 10 to 7, but when my work schedule changes, I will also be changing my hours to 9 to 6.
Okay, yeah. So I think going along with what, Andy was saying is just, it's super important with these committees, making a commitment, because let's say, for example, we have 2 people out tonight, and if I wasn't here, we wouldn't be able to really move on any business, right? So this is a bigger committee, the Cultural Council, for example, and so it's important that when people say that they're going to do this, that they actually do show up, so that people aren't having to cancel meetings or, push things out that might be important. So just so you know, and it sounds like you do, that, you're going to make a commitment and really try to stick with it. And then if it doesn't work out, then obviously you can resign or, step back from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to applaud you, Kevin. I think it's great getting younger folks involved in any part of our town. and any type of activism. And I know that you are trying to, kind of find your way there, and I appreciate that.
Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with everything you just said. Mr. Brown, I would ask that if you find yourself unable to meet the commitments of the various things, that you would step back and create an opportunity for somebody else to contribute and potentially allow those boards and committees to function a little bit better, having more active membership. That would be my one request. With that, I will move that the board vote to appoint Kevin Brown to the Cultural Council.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I will move that the board vote to appoint Kevin Brown to the Accessibility Advisory Commission.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion? I just want to find out from you if you feel that would be too much. So you're on the Cultural Council. Congratulations, first of all. And basically what you'll do is you'll hear from the town administrator's office to go over to the clerk's office to get signed in for that. And it's not signed in.
Sworn in.
Thank you. Sorry. Sworn in for that. And then you will, get the schedule, and hopefully you'll hear from the chair, and you'll get to know when the meetings are and get going with that. So I just want to, so you're on that Cultural Council. Do you still want to be looked at or considered for the Accessibility Advisory Committee, which again is a bigger commitment in my opinion?
I would like to be on the advisory committee in the future, but if I'm selected for the Cultural Council, I prefer just to have one. I think that's enough responsibility for me, one at a time. But I definitely would like to be on the Accessibility Advisory Committee in the future, perhaps when my term on the Cultural Council is over. You can have 3 terms on the council, right? I believe.
I'm not sure that there's a restriction on that.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Well, go ahead.
1, 2, and 3 year terms, maximum of 6 years.
6 consecutive.
Then you have to be off for a year, I believe, and then you can do another 6-year term. 6 years.
Because this is a non-consecutive term for me. I already served another term about a couple years ago.
Yep.
Right.
Madam Chair, I will rescind my motion.
Okay.
And I rescind my second.
Okay, great. Okay, so we won't worry about the Accessibility Advisory Committee. And I agree, with your background, that could be a great fit at some point, right? And by the way, it's not to say that you can't go to as many of those meetings as you choose, right? So you can look up Accessibility Advisory Committee. I can even send you a message with, a schedule for that committee. You can just go, you can Zoom in, give feedback, stand up as a private citizen and let them know that, hey, there's something over here that maybe we could do better. So just so you know, there's other ways to get involved rather than the commitment of, going to this monthly meeting. So again, congratulations on the Cultural Council. I would certainly encourage you, if you have some spare time, to go to some of the Accessibility Advisory Committee meetings, and then you can kind of dip your toe in there in addition to giving your feedback. I think that would be great. Okay, so we'll pass over the Accessibility Advisory Commission, and now you're also, we can move on to election workers, which we do have 2 people for that this evening. And do you want to also hold off on that? The good thing with the election workers, in terms of that category, is we're always looking for people, so it's not something that you have to wait for a term almost to come up, or we haven't had to so far in this town, so that could be something you could sleep on for a month or 2, and come back at such time that you feel like, okay, I want to commit to that as well. So I'll leave that up to you. You're still on for that if you'd like to, but it's up to you.
If it's only twice a year, I think I can handle it.
Okay.
It's on a Tuesday, right?
Yep.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be off Tuesday starting September 28th, so I'll be able to come during the election in November.
Okay. Okay. And there's someone else for that. And generally with the election workers, we just go ahead and make a motion unless anyone wants to discuss the work. Okay.
I move the board vote to appoint Kevin Brown and Julie Grace as election workers.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? I don't know why I'm saying that, but it carries 3.
Thanks for your service, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for coming in.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Take care. Any appointments by the town administrator or the fire chief?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
Just quickly.
Yes.
Did we I just want, before we move on, did we get any clarification on Kate Charlton coming back this week? We had,
He wasn't in the room.
Yeah, I think we heard that she was withdrawing
Okay,
her name,
perfect.
so sorry,
All right.
that's
Sorry,
why
that's
I
my
just went
fault.
over that one.
It was during the time you were late.
yes, which was
By 60 seconds, by the way.
solely my fault and unexcusable. I
No
apologize
worries,
again.
No worries. But yeah, Will, I think, said that she indicated that she was withdrawing her name from that, so that's why it kind of left Kevin as the sole applicant for that one seat.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, great. So moving on to new business, we've already done the proclamation. So we'll hear an update from Evan on Feedback Earth, if there is anything, and then go from there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we continue to have very frequent contact with DEP. They continue to assure the town that they are working on a solution. And so I still have contact with them probably 3 days a week. In the meantime, I also was asked by a resident to research what permits have been issued to feedback, and I'm going to just lump them into a category. So building, wiring, plumbing, there's a lot of different permits that happen during a construction phase. So if you go on to our Viewpoint software, our cloud, I say Viewpoint, that's what it was a decade ago. It's now called OpenGov. If you go onto that and type in 109 Creeper Hill Road, all of those permits will come up and you can see them individually. We also had a certificate of compliance through the Conservation Commission that was issued. And we did have a special permit modification that went through the planning board. And that's kind of the summation of what I have for this evening, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
so you're a few times speaking with DEP, like so far since our last meeting, like nothing really, just still getting information in terms of where they're at? Okay.
Correct. Yep. They and I can give you an update on what they've been telling me. Would probably be helpful.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just still distracted by Andy being late. So, no. So the baseline story is, DEP continues to monitor. They continue to take those reports. I did have a back and forth that I was part of with DEP and the owners of Feedback regarding a disagreement on what is a substantiated claim. I think I might have mentioned this last time. DEP doesn't necessarily care about it being substantiated. They want to know when somebody smells it. We've also gotten some correspondence that I know DEP has looked at in regards to the owner of the facility coming and calling people on their private cell phones or arriving at their private residence. We did have a back and forth last Thursday with the owner. I was under the impression that had ceased, but I've since gotten information that it has not. I did speak with the police department. It does not appear that there's anything legally that the police department could do in that case, aside from assisting someone with some kind of a no trespass order or something like that. But there's really not an enforcement for them to do unless they get a call that says a person's on my property trespassing and I want them to leave and they refuse to do so. And so we did go down that route a little bit, and we'll follow up with DEP if we continue to get reports that behavior continues. DEP also has been in frequent contact with the Attorney General's office and other offices at the state to try to get things put together and moving in the right direction. So we are it's not where the town wants to be either, but we're in a holding pattern on that. I did speak to council to just re-up my clarification on odor complaints and how the local municipality can deal with them. There is a provision in the law that allows the town to create ordinances around odor. However, they're subject to the approval of DEP because they are the oversight authority, and it does seem like that would be a redundant or parallel process if DEP is the one that's the enforcement mechanism. I think that might be the summation of my conversations with DEP since the last time we met.
Okay. Anything from the board on this?
Just one question on the local ordinance. So there's no way, there's no way to write a local ordinance and specify that the enforcement would be local.
I think you can. I think the DEP still has to approve that, and my concern with that is our ability to appropriately or consistently enforce odor complaints. We don't really have those mechanisms, and I realize that, you know, I'm saying that and people are very frustrated with the state's process as well. But you know, we don't fund projects with sniffers, and you know, our staff are trained in other areas. So I don't think it's something that I'm not saying we could never do it.
Sure.
We're not going to look at it. I'm just mindful of what that would look like for staffing.
Yeah, you know, I understand that. I just wonder.
Yeah, I did look at different smelling devices for pinpointing. There's a thing called the nose that you put on literally on your face, and it helps you pinpoint the direction. That's just an aside. That's what I do in the middle of the night when I can't sleep because I'm thinking about town stuff. But yeah, that's my answer.
Auntie?
Yeah, Madam Chair. Kind of channeling comments I've heard from Mr. Offen on other things. I think it's a good opportunity for future boards to consider these things as we have some of these discussions, you know, going into like outdoor events and not having a noise ordinance in place beforehand, or something like this and not having a smell ordinance. And, you know, again, boards and committees staffed by volunteers who don't necessarily consider these things as we're going through the process. But just, you know, and I guess an opportunity for future boards to learn from our mistakes, as it were, and you know, maybe do a little more creative thinking beforehand. Number two, just to reiterate that people should keep calling the DEP. This is the proper course of action. The other thing I wanted to ask, again, because I understand that you there's no police action. Is there any merit to, and again, also understanding that you've reached out to them directly about the situation where they're contacting residents directly or just showing up at their property and asking them to come out? I really feel strongly that that's inappropriate and should stop. Is there any merit to us having a discussion and floating the idea of like a select board memo, basically stating what you've already stated, that they would request that they stop?
Yeah, I think there's definitely merit to it. Okay. And just to clarify, so I was party to an email from DEP that asked us for enforcement. I reached out to try to get some kind of enforcement. We don't really have the legal leg to stand on, and feedback is part of all of that correspondence. So I just want to make sure that I'm representing that properly. I didn't call them directly and say stop doing that. I'm connecting all of those dots with DEP to say this is inappropriate. We'd like you to stop.
It was surprising to hear, honestly, that it's continued, because at their outreach meetings they acknowledged that was a problem and that they would cease doing it. Right. So, you know, I'd just like it to stop.
Yep.
Is that something you want to consider tonight?
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Let's do it.
Can we? Yeah. Why don't we just go ahead and say that we want to direct our TA's office to draft a memo specifically regarding that company or anybody from that company going to any resident stores, following complaints or otherwise, really. Yeah. At this point. And,
no unsolicited contact.
Can be short and sweet.
And information on a complaint form doesn't invite communication.
Yep, that's what we had. My conversation with DEP, that's what it revolved around, and we were quickly on the same page. So
thank you.
Yes, maybe specifically including that emails or cell phones that have been shared on a DEP form should no way, shape, or form be utilized by the owners of the company or anyone that represents them, I guess.
Mhm.
So if we can get that going in short order, and we can all
We'll
go
have
and
it,
sign
we'll have it written tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
and out by Thursday.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
I just have a couple of other things. I mean, I think, the odor ordinance can be something that we still consider in this board. It might not be quick enough or what have you in this very instance right now. But I think that should be something that we, I can take note of, and we can put on a future agenda to try to look to see if there's such something else out there that we can look at and draft something, however that might look. Again, I understand that enforcement might be an issue, but we can try to sort that out as well and see if there's anyone else that has something similar. I just also wanted to add, what I've heard or read is that when folks are calling, to make sure that they are, for what it's worth for whoever's watching this, but to spread the word, it seems to me that it's the effect on your lifestyle that is key, rather than just that there's an odor here today or I smell it and it doesn't smell great. But things like my child can't go out and play, I can't go out and grill, I have to come in for a walk. Those things that specifically relate to having you have to change any part of your lifestyle or anyone in your residence lifestyle, that should certainly be communicated to the DEP, and I think that's came through, like that's what they were looking for. And the other thing is, I mean, are you getting the sense from the DEP that they're understanding, like?
Oh, yeah, I do personally.
Okay.
And I realize that, again, I'm in this role and I'm doing what I do, but all of my contact with DEP, they're exasperated by the issue. They're trying to get all of their ducks in a row.
Okay.
I don't understand the level of, or the bar that they need to be able to reach in order to dot their T's and cross their I's. I don't know what that process looks like. I've also been in contact frequently with Dave Meridian, as well as Senator Moore's office. I had a contact with them this week. And, everybody, the message continues to be that the state is working on a solution and to stand by.
Okay. Maybe just reiterate to them that the board is just out of control right now. The pressure that we're putting and the pressure we're feeling, and then, putting on you.
Yes.
Even though the way we show that, we're all very restrained. And then just lastly on the, the TIF numbers relative to the, I think that came in either in a correspondence or I saw it somewhere. It's out there anyways, relative to the number of employees. That's something that we're still looking into. Or
The TIF?
Yeah.
So I did speak to the, I can't remember if it's Mass Development or Office of Economic Development. But I spoke to a gentleman, Kevin Kuros, who's the one that worked. He actually brought the TIF idea to the town along with feedback. And so we worked together pretty closely on that process. Anyways, he let me know that they are not mandated to report creation of positions or status of their production until January of 25. That's when the first report is due under the TIF agreement.
Okay, so we don't see anything until then.
Correct. And it will go through that office and then to the town.
Okay.
But I think it's 2024, so I'm pretty sure it's simultaneous. I think it's an email
Yep.
attachment, but it's directed to them, and then the town is able to have that information as well.
Okay, great. Is there anyone online or here that wants to just make a brief statement? Yep.
You do have one hand on Zoom.
Okay, go ahead. Allison, is it?
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Hi.
Hi.
So I know that many of you are familiar with me and my inability to be politically correct. August 20th, I came home with my son who was he has pneumonia, and he's a special needs child. And we got out of the car and I I would not let him out of the car because of the odor. I have done everything I can to try to get to the select board, try to get to Allison Greeley. I talked to her that evening for half an hour. I talked to the AG's office today, the Attorney General's office today. I just don't, I know that you're frustrated with the state's process, but I'm actually, I have to say, frustrated with your process. I think that there are so many more things that you folks could be doing to press this against this company. She should not be allowed to continue to infect our air and the quality of my child's health. The air that he breathes is not good. The stench and quality of life, it's not good. I've talked to the Attorney General. I was on Channel 10. I was on Channel 5. Don't tell me you don't have a legal leg to stand on. You do. You could have a harassment order. They're harassing, she's harassing people. She's going to 70-year-old women and saying, no, you don't smell anything, and intimidating them. And I mean, if as a town, if as a select board, you cannot stand up for the people of your town, I just don't even know where to go. I don't know where to go. You are the people, Evan Broussard and the select board. You are the people who have to protect this town and the children of this town, the children that live at Flint Pond, who cannot play outside, who cannot breathe the air. And I'm sadly disappointed in your efforts. You can tell me left and right that you're contacting everybody and doing everything you can. You're not. If you were, if this was affecting North Street and South Street and the Grafton Country Store and any other place in the Grafton Common, you know there would be chaos. Evan Broussard, if it was affecting your life and your children, you know there would be chaos. But you aren't here in North Grafton, and you don't know what we're living through. And frankly, I'm disappointed in all of you.
Right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. And while I appreciate, your disappointment, I do take exception to you saying that I speak for myself, am treating this in any way different than if it was in my backyard. I feel that I have shown myself on this board to take every issue up as if it were in my backyard. Just know, again, we are volunteers, this board. We are doing the best. I feel this board has been doing the best they can to try to push this along, given what we are being told are our limitations. This isn't my specialty. But that's not to say that I haven't gotten schooled in this big time in the last number of years, and certainly in the last 6 to 8 months. I have reached out. I have everyone who has reached out to me. I'm sorry I'm going on a soapbox, but I just take exception to being told that I'm not taking this as if it were my child, because I am. Everyone who has reached out to me, including at 6 o'clock in the morning, and said, "Can you zip over here to this street?" Guess what I've done? I've gone and zipped over to that street. And then I have let Mr. Broussard know. I have done what I can do in terms of my purview. So that's just from me. We will continue to do what we can as a board. I just directed Evan to tell DEP that this board has gone crazy on this. So I am doing my best, and I want to speak for the board. I feel that we have all, in our own way, done our best on that. Someone that you mentioned, owning a business in town, after the first time this came up, he quickly contacted Senator Moore, the DEP directly, So again, those are just instances of what people on this board have been doing. So I appreciate your disappointment. We don't take this lightly. I'm not taking it lightly, but we can direct our town employees to do what they can, and I believe that they are trying as well. So we will stick with it. I have it on the agenda every meeting, and I thank you for your comments, though, Allison.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, you have one more hand on Zoom.
Okay. Come on in, whoever you are.
And just so you know, one more popped up
I
after
don't have
that.
my glasses, but I won't even
Hi.
pretend to
Hi,
see
how
your
are you?
face.
Leanne Gagnon, 17 Maplewood Drive.
Hi.
I wasn't going to raise my hand, but I did want to actually thank the board for their attention to this, and Anne Marie, especially you, because you have gone above and beyond in listening. Certainly in the beginning, there was feelings of being ignored, but the progress that you have all made, I truly appreciate it, and I appreciate it being on the agenda and you talking about it and working very hard on a very confusing and complicated situation for the people of this town. I just want to say that.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Gagnon.
And we have one more.
One more.
Anyone in person? Oh, Jesse. Jesse, you want to hop in?
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep, no worries.
Forgot to unmute. Jesse Remillard, 27 Flint Pond Drive. Like Leanne said, I'd like to echo thank you for continuing to keep this on the agenda here. This is the fourth continuous select board meeting that it's on the agenda, so I do want to acknowledge that. And I thank you, Evan, for following through and getting the permits and licenses out to us. So we can get an idea of where the town does have an involvement rather than where, we don't have our involvement. It's helpful. I would say at this point, because I am one of the people where Allison harvested my personal information from a department odor complaint to take it upon herself to arrive at my home, where my children live, to call my personal cell phone to tell me I need to come outside. I'm no longer frustrated by the odor. I am fully engaged in a community action project. And I think you can all agree that there is no waking hour in my day where this is not the focus of my attention. It's taking away from the time I should be spending with my kids. I should be spending on their homework. And I'm organizing a door hanger to send out to 600 residents to make sure everybody has the phone number. I appreciate that you're letting her know on Thursday we don't like that, but the truth is on Saturday, Friday, Sunday, she's still approaching people. And to say there's nothing we can do except for a harassment order, no, that's exactly what we need to be motivating people to do. This is harassment. It's trespassing. I don't even live on a public road, and she took it upon herself to come into our community and harass me. Not to check the air or to substantiate a claim, but to personally approach me. This is not okay. This is a whole different level of unacceptable behavior. And it needs to be that letter saying the police are aware and they will be responding. Because this isn't the Spider-Man meme, everybody gets one. She can show up to everybody's house once and just harass us. We're talking about 70-year-old women, and she's coming at night in the dark. Can you imagine? This is a woman that can't be here on our meeting tonight because her health's not good. And that's the kind of people she's comfortable approaching to say, there's no smell. On top of that, the odor hotline's not working. I emailed the DEP. I CC'd you guys in and several other people. I got no response from the DEP. I called today and I got the same thing. The number you have dialed, but it's the saved number in my phone. We have no reprieve from this woman and what she's inflicting on our neighborhoods. I do also want to ask, because at the last meeting, Evan, you had mentioned you received a packet from Andy Russo with photos. Do those photos substantiate the claims of the food on the highway? Because I've been told those weren't substantiated, but I'm led to believe the photos do substantiate that.
Yes, I mean, there's definitely something in the road on that.
Is that not what we were waiting for to take action?
Well, yes, but you know, most of the action that the town takes is to say to the folks at Feedback, you're responsible to clean the road.
It seems to me they heard that, right? Because the road has been, as far as we know,
Yeah, I mean,
better.
I was up there a number of times last week. I mean, there's still an issue. They continue to have spillage and.
Okay.
Yeah, I was told that there was trash blowing into Russo's property as recently as Friday. So it's continuing. All of the same complaints from their fourth meeting ago, which
Yep.
they're bi-weekly meetings, so I think we're on week 7.
I know.
Are continuing.
Yep.
I would say the odor ordinance is a strong thing to consider. I understand it's parallel, but in these situations where DEP is not shutting it down, it might give the town a little bit of leverage to be able to act. Where right now you're feeling super frustrated that you can't, it might open up that opportunity. So I would highly recommend thinking that a little further. I appreciate that memo that's coming out. I loved hearing that from you guys. I think calling it what it is, trespassing and harassment, is very important. And also for anybody listening, call twice. When you get that doo-doo-doo, the number you have dialed, hang up and dial it again, because for whatever reason, the phone tree lets it go through the second time. And you have to explain exactly the activities that were disrupted in detail. Don't feel rushed. Give them a paragraph. They have to write it all down. But lastly, I just want to let you guys know, 7:15 tonight, I was driving home from Get to Know Your School night for my daughter. The air smells like seafood and dog food. And it goes all the way from Point Rock, which is beyond Feedback, through Feedback, to my front door. But lastly, I want to thank you guys because I do see you doing stuff. I honestly, as I'm going through these files, because I have files, so many you would not believe. And the more I click through them, the more that I see the letters that you don't reference that you're sending. You know, the emails back and forth, trying to get something done. The fact of the matter is Allison Greenlee's not holding herself responsible. That's the only thing that's causing odors. It's not the town of Grafton. It's not the select board. It's not DEP. It's Allison Greenlee. And until she decides to stop, or I don't know, she ends up arrested for trespassing and harassment, we're not going to get any reprieve here.
Okay. Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate it. And I will just say, if you're still there, I really appreciate your grassroots work that you're doing. I'm seeing it. So all I can say is way to go. I know you're taking a lot of your personal time out for this, but it certainly doesn't hurt the situation. So I guess maybe just to highlight for Evan, if we're talking to the DEP the next time, that hotline issue, that is an issue. I know I called once and I got that little do, and I checked again and I got the same thing, and I guess I'm not sure if I persisted until they answered or not, but that seems to be an ongoing thing that they need to correct. And then just to direct William or whoever is going to be writing the letter, just that it is very strong worded, as Jesse, indicated. And I'll start looking into the odor ordinance or what's out there. Okay. Anything else on this? Hopefully we will get there. Okay, moving along, 17 and 27 Upton Street. I just wanted to bring to the board, I don't know if we vote on this or if this is just a charge that I want to set forth to Evan, mostly relative to what was in the memo from legal. So I just wanted to talk about 3 issues or 3 concerns, 3 charges, I suppose. One, to charge the TA office or an appropriate designee to look at starting to draw up that land disposition agreement in conjunction with the developer and council. So this is just something that was mentioned. I had seen that in the P&S think it was the first PNS. So just that we start thinking about that and start looking at what that entails. And then secondly, directly from council to send out a fact-based letter to the company, to to GSX, regarding, you know, the issue of all these entities and how they're related to each other. I know something might have come through relative to the entity that is in Maryland, but again, from what I've seen, that maybe is a defunct business, I'm not really sure, as of 2019. So just clarifications of the relationships between the entities, and then just digging into what entity that we're dealing with.
Yes.
And then lastly, relative to Mr. Carroll's concern, the proof of insurance, if that's applicable, and the section 49A, that attestation, that would have been kind of onboarding documents. I think that the insurance, I'm sorry, the other forms came through and there was an EIN number, sorry. So essentially those two things, and I can see if there's anything else that came up in Mr. Carroll's communique, but I think that was it. Yep. We're down to. So open that up to the board. Any questions or comments? And I'm not sure how then we proceed.
Yeah, no, that all sounds very sensible. My main concern was with the operating entity that we were dealing with, and council obviously brought up that there could potentially be title issues. So that was really my main concern. Yeah, the other two things, they're called out, and I think they're a little bit lesser of a concern of mine, but I'm fine. Just dotting our I's and crossing our T's. That makes sense to me.
Okay.
The other, I do understand, though, from talking with one of the Affordable Housing Trust members who got in touch with John Grant, that at least one of their entities is doing business as one of their other entities. So I think just some clarification on how that's all working, and to make sure that we won't have any title issues.
So we did receive some correspondence from GSX today that I forwarded to council regarding the different entities that GSX owns or operates, or however you want to put that. Did nothing to clarify anything for me. So council did not find it clarifying either. So I am going to put our council directly in touch with their council to make sure that we get clarity on what we need. I think that's probably going to be the most cost-effective and simplest way to do that for us.
Great.
Sounds great.
Anything to add or any concerns about what I'm looking
Nope,
for?
totally logical and reasonable. I'm on board.
Madam Chair, yeah. Just, I guess one last thing for me is, so Amory came to the trust meeting and you had a number of concerns, primarily around the operating entities and the different businesses involved and all of that. And I really appreciated that commentary. For me, one of the takeaways overall for this project and all projects like this that are multi-year projects that involve lots and lots of documents, and in this case commercial agreements and all that kind of stuff. There's a grant agreement. We just need to do a better job putting this information in the public in a way that's highly accessible as it's happening. So I think one of the big issues that I've observed with this particular development is you could have somebody dipping in with interest in the development at any point. And it's really difficult as a member of the public to get all the information that you would like to have somewhere in the middle of the project. And often people get interested when there are planning board hearings, right? So the developer wants to put a shovel in the ground and actually do something, and so now it's becomes much more meaningful for people. And then they need to catch up on all of the decisions that were made, the whole narrative for the project. In this case, there were a number of changes that happened. My opinion, those changes all happened in the natural course of this project being developed, and the developer responding to various, internal and external impacts. But I think to help residents who are looking for information like that, I just think it would help us if we could. And we ran into this with like some of the road construction projects and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to be too reactive to this, but I do think I'm seeing a bit of a pattern where it would help us to be over communicating and over publishing information on the, we now have the project pages organized, which I think are fantastic. That is a huge development. And I think it's a really nice and simpler way to put information out there. So I would just encourage all of the town entities, but the select board and, planning board where it's appropriate and all that kind of stuff, to be publishing the information as it comes through, and things like fully executed documents, so that it's not just one signature, it's everybody's signature. And for me, that serves two purposes. It informs the public and puts all the information in one spot, and it also acts as a bit of a control where the town is making sure that we have countersigned documents, for example, and the insurance certificates and the certificates of good faith and all of those things that we've ticked all the tick boxes, and we know we've done that because we put all the information up on the project page. So for me, that's one of the big takeaways with this particular project, is just our ability to be able to position somebody who at any point in the project is interested in what's happened and how we got to where we are. I talked to the Housing Trust on this too. 25 Worcester's the same kind of thing, right? So the Housing Trust, there was a citizen petition, went to town meeting. We had some concept designs, which were, good, but don't look like what is being currently proposed. In the same way, it evolved, and that was an RFP process, same kind of thing. We had some public input meetings. We crafted an RFP with some requirements, put it out there. We got a single qualifying response, and we awarded that, and the project moving forward. But it's a very similar kind of dynamic. And, we're not talking shovels in the ground for a few years. So it's the same kind of thing where when this goes before ZBA, which is probably how it's going to end up going, people are going to have the same issue with, how did we get here? Especially the people that maybe looked at that project at the very beginning, those initial concept designs. It's just not the same development now. So I think we just need to, take that on board and try to get the documentation. I think it's really important for us to do it along the way, so that we're not having to have questions in public meetings that we can't answer which is kind of what is happening now. All the questions are being answered. It's just, it's not ideal to have the questions being asked and left hanging for us to then, because some of these issues take considerable research and whatnot to sort out for people. So, anyways, yeah, I think we just need to do better with that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm trying to, make sure that anything that the board is under the board's purview is crystal clear, and that I'm clear that anything, whether I voted for or against it, I was still on the board, is above board, for lack of another term at this point. Okay. So this might very well come back up on it will, because hopefully we'll get some answers on those things, but we'll see where we go from here.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
You have one hand on Zoom if you're taking public comment.
Sure. Bob? Cannot even see those letters. Go ahead, Bob. Sorry.
Hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Madam Chair. I'd just like to acknowledge and thank the board for following up and looking into these matters, and then further releasing the, I guess it's an opinion from the town's attorney. with the language in there, and that the board will be following up on, untangling all of these corporate entities, so it's clear to everyone their role and how the town navigates that. So thanks for listening, and thanks for taking this under advisement and following up.
Great, thank you, Bob. Glad I recognized it. Okay, moving along, select board reports.
I'll just take a second to thank Will. As he mentioned at our last meeting, he offered us a chance to go check out the cupola and the restoration work that's gone on up there. It's really impressive, provided you don't have a problem with heights. Just being around the 100-year-old architecture, seeing what's been restored, what's some of the improvements that have made along the way, even just access points were something that was adjusted. So I just wanted to say thanks for taking the opportunity to bring me up there.
My pleasure. It was fun.
I agree.
Anyone else?
Was he late for that?
Oh.
I was going to pipe in that I was on time for that one.
Madam Chair, yeah, just quickly, the Affordable Housing Trust did meet, and I went to the meeting as you did. So it was a good discussion. One of the main things that we did end up discussing was 1727 and sort of where we're at with that project. So, yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, I don't think I have anything. Okay, moving on to TA report.
Yep, so I'm not going to do the standard one because we just met last week. And I was going to put it together. So
Okay, so it's old now, just to
I know. Well, I'm going to keep doing it for probably 6-7 months. But no, so the only other thing I wanted to update the board on is if you recall, quite a while ago, we had a series of town meetings where we changed things at the charter level, and we sent those off to the legislature. And so none of them have come through the legislature yet. I get a lot of people asking when that's going to happen, and most of it is out of our control. I do want to just bring up correspondence I got from Representative Meridian, if I can find it.
This is a search for.
Excuse me for 1 second. My plan was to go and pull this off of the state website and research them all before this meeting, but the state website is down.
Oh, that's
today,
right.
mass.gov. If you have a chance to go look at it, it's pretty funny because when you search it, it comes up and says, "Oh my God, there's something wrong." I thought that was pretty clever. So H4685 is engrossed in the House and in the Senate now. 4684 is engrossed in the House and in the Senate. 4683 is still on the third reading in the House, and 4682 is still on the third reading in the House. Both 84 and 85 are the charter changes that we're waiting for, and then there's some other local option stuff that we were doing. So, still in the process. Really, nothing we have control over, but I do have eyes on it, and we'll continue to track it every week or so and see where it is in the process.
People think we move slow.
I know.
Are they still on recess or are they legislation now?
No, I think that they're back
Back,
reviewing legislation.
Okay. And that's it?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. I had a question for you. That's okay. Okay, correspondence. Anyone have anything related to correspondence? I'll just note that we did get something from the Water District, addressing concerns relative to water. I know I've been seeing it not only online, but I have a lot of neighbors that are sending me pictures of their water, and not only neighbors, other people as well. So I think, what I've been telling people is to reach out to the Water District, and I believe at 7:45 on October 9th, it's a Wednesday, is the Water District's next meeting.
AM.
In the AM, yes, it's always in the AM. So 7:45 AM, at that little building on at the top of Brigham Hill.
No,
it's not Brigham Hill.
44 Millbury Street.
Millbury Street, sorry. I had Brigham Hill, or I had that site in my brain. So that would be a time for folks to show up and let people know what's going, or let them know what's going on. They know and cite that the water is safe, but, rightly, folks have concerns.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
before you move off that, I just wanted to acknowledge that I did get correspondence from both Representative Meridian and Senator Moore, so I know people have contacted them as well to try to get some state leverage on the project for the problem.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else? Correspondence was late tonight, and there's no resignations. Any public comments? Anyone online?
You have one hand on Zoom.
Anyone here in the building? Yep, come on up. I've been going Zoom first all night, so we'll watch it. Hi.
Hi, Brian Griffin, 8 Mason Drive, Grafton, North Grafton. Select Board, my name is Brian Griffin. This is my wife. We've lived in Grafton for over a decade. This is the first town meeting I've spoken at. And it's because over the last 2 months, we've been dealing with an extremely challenging situation. We bought our house roughly a year after graduating UMass, Amherst. We got our first dog at the house. We brought both of our boys home, 3 and 1. We've loved Grafton, in the outstanding community. It was a difficult decision, but we decided in May that we had to move because we were outgrowing our house. We needed more space for our growing family. We listed our house for sale after the 4th of July and had it under contract a couple days later. Then on July 17th, we received a letter from the Grafton Building Department stating that our finished basement was not permitted. This was a shock to us as we had purchased the house with the same finished basement over 10 years earlier. I notified our attorney and our agent about this seemingly erroneous complaint. Took a day off from work to have a Zoom meeting with the now former inspector, Robert Berger. In the Zoom call, the building department file showed the department knowing there was a finished basement before we bought the property. This was later also correlated with the assessor's field card having the same notation, both showing a 750 square foot below grade finished basement. During this meeting, he pulled up all permits, which revealed that there was a falsely misaddressed pool permit, along with several open permits that in fact had been reviewed, approved, and closed over 7 years prior. Following the Zoom meeting with Robert Berger, we invited him to our home to do our due diligence and work together to remediate this claim. He showed up, and after 20 minutes of explaining what he thought was okay and not okay, we discovered that the house plans he had brought over, labeled as our address, were in fact not our house plans at all. He left the property saying we were his top priority and he would get it straightened out. It was radio silence for the next 2 weeks. I then reluctantly had business travel overseas. At this point, we reached out to 2 attorneys for guidance, whom told us to not touch the basement or open any requested permits, pointing out a Mass Law, Chapter 40A, Section 7, which indicates that these issues have a statute of limitation of 10 years. While on this business trip, I also learned that Robert Berger had resigned. Back to the Mass Law. The town had known about the finished basement for over a decade. I had pulled multiple permits pertaining to work in the basement, one of which was rewiring the electrical panel to be able to add an AC system and a heating system, all in the basement. And the town had no issue with the basement at any point until I listed my house for sale. My closing attorney reached out to the now part-time interim acting inspector Tracy Sharkey to help explain the situation and the Mass Law. Noting the several other record-keeping errors, Tracy begrudgingly removed the misaddressed pool permit, closed all of the claims left open. However, she has refused to acknowledge Mass Law, Chapter 48, Section 7, pertaining to our finished basement, which, as we all know, was now completed over a decade ago. My attorney also did their due diligence and reached out to other lawyers in regards to the law, as well as the Grafton Regional State Level Building Inspector, Adele Reynolds, all whom agreed that this type of situation is exactly why the law is in place. At this point, this has caused us 2 months of distress, and our house closing has been delayed multiple times. We are currently facing our buyer walking away from the sale, as they cannot understand why this claim is active still. It is currently still held up because Tracy Sharkey is the sole individual who refuses to acknowledge the mass law. I hope there is someone here who can help us tonight, as our calls to the building department of the town of Grafton have gone unanswered. The people of Grafton deserve better. It is a shame that we have people in place of authority that refuse to acknowledge state laws that are here to protect the people. Thank you for your time.
Is there any information to this that we should?
Yeah, you folks reached out to me this afternoon. I spent 20 minutes right before this meeting speaking with your attorney. I obviously, not obviously, but I just became aware of this this afternoon.
Okay.
So in speaking to Katie, your attorney, we had agreed that I would reach out to town council in the morning to review 48 section 7 with them. I've never heard of 48 section 7 applying to building code. It's purely a zoning enforcement code and has nothing to do with building code. If we are told that no, it does apply and the 10 years is up, no one would be happier to hear that than I would, besides you, because it does cause us quite a bit of chagrin.
I just threw it to you because you had indicated that you had reached out to. It sounded like there were more than just one, department. So I just wanted to ensure that. So it sounds like it wasn't your department in terms of not getting.
So I my first call was to Tracy to get some background information on what the project was and what issues existed. Then I had another meeting, and then I called your attorney. And so we're trying to find a not amicable, you know what I mean, a viable way forward that the town, gets what it needs or gets out of the way, and everybody is back on track.
So when you indicated that you reached out to town and you weren't getting responses, was that just to the building department?
Yes.
Okay. That was just, I was clarifying that.
No, I
Thank you
didn't
for
take it as an effect. I mean, I just didn't have
Yeah.
all the
No.
time to be able to dot all the T's this afternoon.
No. Yeah, I know we reached out this afternoon.
But I did talk to Katie for about 20 minutes. So we went over much of the same things that you just told me, and tried to come up with a strategy to get this accomplished.
Okay. Yeah, we're up against the clock.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. So sorry that you have to go through this.
So that's unfortunately that's the only update I have as of right now. I literally got the phone with her at 6:50 and then came into this meeting.
Okay.
Which Andy was late for. I don't know if you caught that.
We were later. So.
But we I don't want you to feel that because that's the answer that we don't take it seriously or we're not looking into it or we're gonna whatever. I can certainly empathize with the stress that would cause, and we want to see you get everything wrapped up here and
Thank you.
move on.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
Thanks.
Thanks
It's
for
really
coming
good.
in. Yeah. Sorry that's been your experience. Truly.
Any other public comments?
You have one hand on.
Okay, go ahead. Dan?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, Dan Kusher, 79 Keith Hill Road. I just want to go back to the charter changes that are not getting done by the state legislature. It's incredibly disappointing that our legislature is so disorganized and ineffective that they can't do these things that used to be just quick, check the box type of things. But it's my understanding that some, if not all of them, could be done with the other charter change process by going, instead of through the legislature, going through a ballot on the next town election. I would suggest that we consider putting these same changes back on town meeting, on the town meeting warrant, so that we can approve them through this other process in May and actually get them done. I am not confident at this point that the legislature will get these done in the current session. So I just wanted to put that suggestion out there. Thank you.
Really appreciate that, Dan. Thanks. Agreed. Frustrating.
It is. I wonder, I mean, is that even something that we could consider? It just seems odd that
We, sorry, I get close to the microphone for Bill. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a viable strategy moving forward. We went this route because it has been traditionally faster, and it just didn't work out this way. And I do want to remind folks that some of that delay is on the town of Grafton. Right, we had an inexcusable delay on our side of even getting them to the legislature. So while the legislature's process is slow, we own part of that as well.
Yep. Yeah, thanks for noting that.
follow-up question. How would that process play out? I'm just curious because,
The
like,
ballot?
what if those measures, they pass the one way and they're going to the legislature for the vote? What if they don't pass a ballot vote and then we essentially have conflicting measures?
Yeah,
Well, maybe you wouldn't do them with these necessarily, but
I
going
think that was
further.
Dan's suggestion.
Yeah.
And not to be offensive to Dan, but I don't think we would do that. I think if we got to the point where we were like, okay, this is not going to happen, we're going to go the ballot route. I think we would. I don't know how we would do it. I think we would probably have to rescind the vote at town meeting and then withdraw it from the legislature and then move forward. And maybe that's what Dan was suggesting. I don't know, but I don't think you would do them at the same time because of that exact reason. So I think, we did it this way and it's taking longer than we wanted. So next time we'll do it a different way. And if we get to the spring and we're not there, then I think that's a conversation to have with Mike and Dave and say, should we pull these and do this a different way?
Okay.
So,
thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
Yeah. Thanks for the input, Dan.
Yeah. Anyone else in person or on Zoom? Okay, your hand was up. Okay. So that's it for public comments. We have no meeting minutes. I will take a whatever.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I guess by 9:05 I close.
I hear you.